Welcome back to another FPL Transfer Tips. This time out of Double Gameweek 37, I'm going to highlight 10 players to buy, hold, sell and skip. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Smash the like button if you enjoy it and subscribe if you're new. Our aim is to get this video to the 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards 25k subscribers and beyond. Check out all the other links in the description below for my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, also the Patreon, Championships Discord server, FPL League, FPL Challenge, Draft Hound, as well as Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. First purchase I'm going to recommend is Nicholas Jackson, and I've been discussing him since Double Gameweek 35 when I built the wildcard. He was in all of my videos and podcasts for the week, and there was a lot of doubt, but he has delivered in the last couple of games in those London derbies against West Ham and Spurs. A 16-pointer in Game Week 36, which saved a lot of people's FPL teams. He has 13 goals and 6 assists for the season, 33 big chances, 133 FPL points, and some good fixtures on paper to round off the season, and the other underlying numbers look very encouraging. His XG is 16.49, 73 shots overall, with 63 of them being inside the box, and even 36 key passes is decent for Nicholas Jackson. So I think he's the best Chelsea attacker, with the obvious exception of Cole Palmer, of course. Maguire is another one who's been on really good form in the last couple of matches, but I'd still rank Jackson above him. And if I'm ranking the Chelsea assets right now, it'd be Palmer in first, without a shadow of a doubt, Jackson in second, and Petrovic in third. Speaking of which, I also recommend Petrovic if you're looking for a goalkeeper, and some of you might be looking for defenders, and in that case, a Cucurella or Chalobah could be decent, but I think Petrovic is the best way to cover Chelsea defensively. I think those fixtures are better for the Chelsea attackers rather than defenders or Petrovic, but I think one clean sheet is certainly possible over the last 3 matches. Petrovic has kept 5 clean sheets over the season, which isn't great, but of course Robert Sanchez did start the season for many matches. He has made 67 saves, 41 big chances conceded, and 65 FPL points, but he got 11 in Double Gameweek 35, and he did very well in the second match against Tottenham Hotspur with that 9-pointer. He's also quite a differential with 6.5% ownership, and he's quite cheap at 4.6 million. So for me, Petrovic is a buy, and on paper, he's the best goalkeeper for Double Gameweek 37. If you're looking for a 5th midfielder who can optimize your bench boost or who can even start for you in Double Gameweek 37, I think Anthony Gordon remains a great choice to buy, and his ownership is 23.3%, so it has increased by around 10% since the last time I covered him. He was also a buy back then, and ever since I recommended him, he's been getting double-digit return after double-digit return, and even away from home against Burnley, he delivered, and typically Gordon is good in home matches. You look at the remaining fixtures, 2 of them are going to be away, but Gordon can produce against Brighton, and that's enough already to secure a good return, and I think he can deliver against Manchester United away from home given their current form, and he's quite benchable for Game Week 38, or you could even sell him to plenty of other options like an Eze or Elise, or maybe you can even upgrade him to Arsenal midfielders like Kai Havertz against Everton at home. But Anthony Gordon has 10 goals and 16 FPL assists for the season. His XGI is 14.09, 175 FPL points. He could get very close to 200 points overall, and he has registered 76 shots for the season with 16 big chances. All the other underlying numbers are pretty decent, especially for a midfielder who is priced so cheaply at the start of this campaign. Anthony Gordon is probably the second best Newcastle attacker at the moment. I think the fixtures do favour Isak a little bit more, so if you were to choose one of them, I would go for Isak, but Gordon is undoubtedly the second best Newcastle asset for Double Gameweek 37, and also one of the best midfielders in the game. I'm quite confident that Bruno Fernandes will feature against Arsenal at the weekend. He was quite close to making it against Crystal Palace on Monday. Ten Hag said before that match, "We had an issue with Bruno, so he has a doubt for Monday, but he will fight to be part of this game. Never rule him out for any game, and he's going to give his best to be available." So based on those comments, I'm quite confident he will be available against Arsenal, and he is definitely a hold for this double game week. 2 home fixtures, and his form has been incredible. He has been quite anonymous for most of the season FPL wise, but over the last 2 months he has really stepped it up. He's averaging 8 to 9 chances created per game in the FA Cup semi-final. He's doing against Sheffield United and Burnley, and he's also doing really well in most matches. Against Liverpool, he scored a crucial equaliser and put the pressure on the Reds in that fierce derby. And Bruno Fernandes is always a good FPL option at the peak of his powers. 10 goals and 8 FPL assists, 108 key passes. He really should have many more assists, but the attackers around him haven't really delivered, and Bruno Fernandes has seen some quality chances created being put to waste. 161 FPL points, which is a lot higher than I expected considering the start of the season he had. His ownership is still 17%, and he could be a decent differential to low-owned player that can boost you up the ranks in Double Gameweek 37 and even against Brighton. He has a good record against them, but I think for Gameweek 38, a very popular move will be Bruno Fernandes to Saka or maybe even a Kai Havertz going into the Arsenal midfielders instead. But for Gameweek 37, don't do that. Keep Bruno Fernandes at all costs if he's fit and available against Arsenal and Newcastle. I said Saka was a hold last week, and I think the same applies to most Arsenal attackers like Odegaard, but especially Kai Havertz, given his goals and assists record in 2024. Ever since he's moved up front, he is averaging a goal or assist every 66 minutes, I believe, which is an incredible record, and he's getting goals and assists on a consistent basis. Against Bournemouth, he had a great performance, but no official goals or assists. He did win the penalty, though, which obviously counted to his FPL score. 12 goals and 9 FPL assists for the season. His XGI is 14.46. He's actually overperformed in terms of goals compared to XG, which normally is the other way around, as Kai Havertz has had pretty poor finishing for his entire Premier League career. But his positioning, the intelligence, the link-up play has all worked in Arsenal's favour, and he is crucial to Arsenal's attack at this moment in time, and I'd highly recommend holding Kai Havertz if possible. But if you are able to sell Havertz to a double gaming midfielder, then swap back to the German in Gameweek 38, that could be the optimal play. But don't sell Havertz if it means taking a -4 hit, and ultimately, I'd recommend having 2 or 3 Arsenal players against Everton at home for Gameweek 38. The temptation to fill your entire 50-man squad full of doublers is certainly going to be there, but I'd recommend keeping Gabriel if possible. I think a clean sheet against Everton is likely, and I wouldn't mind starting him against Man United or having Gabriel form part of your bench boost. The same applies to Saliba, who I discussed last week, and Ben White. Those are the 3 Arsenal defenders you'd want to keep. If you have a Tomiyasu or Zinchenko, then I just completely ignore them because there could be rotation there, although Tomiyasu is currently first choice. And the same also applies to David Raya in goal. And I look at the defenders from Double Gameweek 37, and we don't have many options really. You look at the 6 teams doubling, and the midfielders and forwards are quite stacked, but I can't say the same about goalkeepers or defenders. Gavardio is the best on paper, maybe a Kyle Walker as well if he starts both games for Manchester City, but then the rest look quite underwhelming. Dan Burn, Livramento Hall might be some of the best options, Diogo Dalot, but you look at how Man United are defending, and they're playing Arsenal and Newcastle, so it's not looking great really. So I think Gabriel and all Arsenal defenders like Saliba and Ben White are definitely worth holding on to. Gabriel got 7 points against Bournemouth, and he was quite fortunate because I felt he played pretty poorly in that game, especially compared to his high standards that he has set over the last 2 years. But he has 3 goals and 1 assist for the season. He had 1 goal disallowed against Bournemouth. It was a great strike, but there was an offside in the build-up. And Gabriel's XG is 4.21, which is actually very impressive for a centre-back. And that's 141 FPL points for the season, and his ownership is still under 30%, and he's priced at 5.4 million. The cheapest way to cover Arsenal defensively, with the exception of David Raya. I'd highly recommend keeping all your Arsenal defenders and goalkeeper, if possible, in preparation for that game, once again, against Everton. Darwin Núñez has been benched in 3 out of the last 4 matches, and on those occasions he has played 50 minutes or less, and I talked about skipping him back in Double Gameweek 34, and ever since then he's only gotten 4 FPL points, which is obviously very surprising. Over the course of the season there are some decent numbers. 11 goals and 11 assists for a young striker is very impressive, and that's 34 big chances. The other underlying numbers are incredible. 106 shots, 82 shots inside the box. The XG is 16.11, but as always with Darwin Núñez, the finishing can be very erratic, and he gets into some great positions. His movement is incredible, but the finishing leaves a lot to be desired. And ultimately, the only Liverpool players I'd consider keeping at this point is probably Salah and maybe Gakpo, considering his form. But I look at the rest, and I think they're all expendable. Maybe you could make a case for keeping a Luis Diaz. I wouldn't recommend any Liverpool defenders whatsoever. Trent Alexander-Arnold or Virgil van Dijk, I think they're both sellable. And the same applies to Darwin Núñez. Only Mohamed Salah for me is a great FPL option for the last 2 game weeks. Darwin Nunez is certainly not that for me, and you could easily go to a Nicholas Jackson, an Isak, Callum Wilson. There are a few strikers you can go to, even Rasmus Højlund if you want to go there, but I'll talk about him very soon. For me, Darwin Nunez is a sell. On Sunday, we got confirmation of Harry Maguire missing the rest of the Premier League games due to injury. So the official quote was, Harry has sustained a muscle injury that will keep him out for about 3 weeks. There is a chance he makes it for the FA Cup final against Manchester City, but of course, Harry Maguire's a sell. It's a very obvious thing to state. Who do you replace him with? I think Dan Burn is one of the best ones around his price. You have others like Van Heck who are also injured, so you can't even go to him, and it's quite difficult really. It depends on your budget, but I think Dan Burn immediately springs to mind as a like-for-like replacement in terms of price. If you're looking for another United defender, Diogo Dalot would be the best one, but Man United are awful defensively. Will they keep a clean sheet in the last 3 games? It's unlikely on paper. Will they win a game? It's possible, but Man United really need to fix things up, and defensively, they're looking shocking. They've got Johnny Evans and Casemiro as the centre-backs. They desperately need Lisandro Martinez to return, and the same goes for Rafael Varane. They are huge misses for Manchester United, who have been decimated by injuries all season. I'd also consider Arsenal defenders or a Branthwaite at a similar price, who has Sheffield United at home in Game Week 37, but Branthwaite won't be useful to you in Game Week 38 against Arsenal away, at least on paper. And I'd also consider Pedro Porro and also the likes of Gvardiol. He would be my top pick, or even a Kyle Walker. I'd go to a Man City defender if possible, but around the similar price, I would say Dan Burn or Branthwaite are the best Maguire replacements, and it's a shame because I think Maguire was in pretty good form. He's got 2 goals and 4 FPL assists for the season, 20 shots, which is decent for a centre-back, 73 FPL points, and his ownership was very low at 3.1%. I'm one of those owners. I'll be looking to sell him. Check out my team selection video on podcast to see what my transfer plans are. Maguire at 4.3 million was set to be a decent option for the double game week, but he is now out for the rest of the Premier League season. Rasmus Højlund has potential, and I think in a few years he could become a good FPL asset. He had a purple patch, and unfortunately an injury disrupted his rhythm and flow, and ever since he's returned he hasn't really been on it. Only 1 goal since that happened, and that was against Sheffield United, and a 7-pointer. Apart from that, it's blank after blank. The fixtures don't look great on paper. The 2 home games could sway things a little bit, and Højlund could score a goal. His price is 7.1 million. His ownership is also very low at 5.9%, but there's no doubt that Jackson and Isak are far better FPL options, not to mention Erling Haaland, and I'd even go as far to say Callum Wilson could be better for Double Gameweek 37. But one stat that really stood out to me for Rasmus Højlund, he's only had 35 shots throughout the entire campaign. Harry Maguire's had 20. It's actually incredible, and Højlund has played 27 matches. He hasn't started all of them, to be fair, but he has started enough to have more shots than that. Only 19 of them are on target. His XG is 6.7. A lot of the underlying numbers are very poor. The best stat is 17 big chances and 26 key passes, almost averaging 1 chance created per game. I think Rasmus Højlund's hold-up play is good. He's got strength, and I think the physicality can definitely get to a really high level, but I think his positioning could do some improvement, and sometimes the Man United players don't even find him, and all the chances that Bruno creates are for the other players when Højlund is one of the best finishers at the club. And for me, Bruno Fernandes is by far the best option Man United have to offer if he's fit. If you want an alternative attacker, it's between Garnacho and Rasmus Højlund, so take your pick your poison. I'd probably go for Højlund in that instance, but I think Isak, Jackson, Haaland, Callum Wilson and a few other strikers are significantly better than the Danish international. If you disagree, be sure to let me know, and these 2 home games could result in some returns finally, but I personally would look elsewhere in the forward line. The 10th and final player is João Pedro, another Game Week 37 doubler. He has a great record against Manchester United, who he scored earlier this season, and also during his time at Watford. But looking at the 2 fixtures in Game Week 37, Newcastle and Chelsea are in good form, and Brighton, despite winning against Aston Villa and João Pedro scoring the winner, just like with Rasmus Højlund, I think there are better alternatives in the forward line, which I've mentioned throughout this video and podcast, and also in all my wildcard team videos, and also my team selections. You all know my feelings on the best front 3, which is Haaland, Isak, and Jackson, and there are still a few other forwards like a Callum Wilson who I'd rank higher than João Pedro, who has decent stats for a 5.2 million forward, and if you want a striker at this price or below, then the Brazilian is the best option at your disposal. His ownership is also 6%. It's a massive differential. In terms of Brighton assets, I think João Pedro and Pascal Gross are by far the best options, but they aren't looking too appealing based on their form over the last few months. And Lewis Dunk is the only other Brighton asset I'd consider, and that's just because they have a double and Dunk has some goal threat. But with João Pedro, 9 goals and 2 assists for the season. His XG is 11.19, so there has been some underperformance there. He is very close to getting 100 FPL points. He's almost certainly going to get to it if he can stay injury-free. So if you want a Brighton attacker, Gross and João Pedro could be decent, but I'd personally skip them and look for other options from Newcastle, Chelsea, Spurs, and Manchester City. And that concludes the transfer tips for this video and podcast. 10 players highlighted to buy, hold, sell, and skip. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to over 200 likes, and let's keep on pushing towards 25,000 subscribers and beyond. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, for the latest FPL and user fantasy updates. Also join the Discord server, become a patron or a channel member by clicking the join button on YouTube, and it's patreon.com/DylanRCM. Also check out the Discord server, which is a great community to be a part of. Also check out Draft Town, which is a great resource for all FPL managers. And follow me on Spotify and Amazon Music, and leave a 5-star review on Spotify, which goes a long way to supporting the channel. I wish you all the best of luck for Double Gameweek 37 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.